She walked into the lion's den to save her dying grandmother, but she never knew the cruel CEO she sold herself to had been secretly in love with her for years. What happens next will break your heart, heal it, and shatter everything you thought you knew. Before you dive in, make sure to subscribe this channel for more emotional, suspenseful miracle stories that will leave you breathless. To save her grandmother, poor and desperate 18-year-old Ira Malik walked into the tallest, coldest skyscraper in the city, a place where dreams weren't just crushed, they were ground into dust under the heel of one man. Damon Hale, the notoriously cruel CEO whose name alone made people fall silent, a man rumored to have no heart, no mercy, and no past, only an empire built on fear. Ira had grown up hearing stories of him, stories that painted him as a monster carved from ice, but nothing could have prepared her for the storm in his eyes the moment she stepped into his office, trembling, holding the medical bills that could save her dying grandmother who had raised her single-handedly after her parents died in a fire years earlier. A fire Ira had always believed was an accident until the day she learned it wasn't. Something she would only uncover much later, buried beneath the lies that connected her fate to Damon in ways more twisted and heartbreaking than anyone could have imagined. As she stood before him, her voice barely above a whisper as she begged for help, offering the only thing she had: herself. Damon's jaw tightened, his expression unreadable, dark, almost pained, as if he were seeing a ghost he had already lost once, and before she could utter another word, he agreed, not asking for details, not asking for explanations, just laying down one condition. She would belong to him for 1 year, with no questions asked. The world believed Damon was heartless, but inside him raged a secret he had buried for a decade. A secret named Ira, though she didn't know it, not yet. She had been only a little girl when he first saw her crying outside a burning house, clutching a blood-stained scarf, the same fire that killed her parents, a fire Damon believed he was responsible for because it had been his father's men who set the house ablaze to wipe out evidence of a secret deal gone wrong, a fire Damon had tried to stop, arriving too late, finding only that terrified little girl who vanished moments later into the crowd when the police arrived, leaving him haunted for years, swearing he'd find her and protect her if he ever got the chance. But fate was crueler than both of them, because now she stood before him and didn't recognize him, and he couldn't reveal the truth without risking losing her again, especially now that she had willingly walked into his world of shadows. Their arrangement began with coldness, Damon hiding his emotions behind steel walls while Ira endured humiliation from employees jealous of her sudden presence in his life. But Damon, despite his reputation, watched over her silently, protecting her from behind the scenes. He fired anyone who spoke ill of her, replaced her torn shoes with custom pairs she never asked for, sent anonymous donations to her grandmother's hospital, all while keeping his distance as if fighting a war inside himself. But Ira, despite her fear, wasn't weak. Every day she pushed forward with grace, determination, and a strength Damon had never seen in anyone before, and slowly, dangerously, he found himself falling deeper into the feelings he had buried for years, while she felt herself drawn to the man behind the shadows, glimpsing the flickers of loneliness in his eyes whenever he thought she wasn't looking. Yet darkness wasn't done with them, because just when Ira began to believe Damon wasn't the monster everyone claimed, she stumbled upon a file in his private study, a file containing details of the fire that killed her parents, a file with Damon's family's name stamped across the top, and her world shattered instantly, pain tearing through her as the man she had begun to trust suddenly became the monster who destroyed her life. Or so she thought. She confronted him in the rain, screaming, sobbing, accusing him of everything she had suffered, and Damon, instead of defending himself, stood silent, letting her hit his chest with trembling fists, letting her break anything she wanted, because he believed he deserved it. But when she cried that she hated him, something inside him snapped. Not in anger, but in fear, because losing her again was a pain his heart couldn't survive. So he told her everything. How he had been only 17, how his father had ordered the fire, how he had tried to stop it, how he had carried her to safety and searched for her for years, how he built his empire not for power but to destroy the criminal underworld his father left behind, including the men who had set the fire that killed her parents. But Ira, drowning in grief, refused to believe him, calling him a liar, a manipulator, a monster who used her desperation to trap her. She ran back to the hospital only to find her grandmother missing. Gone. Kidnapped by the same syndicate Damon had spent years fighting. The same men who now wanted revenge on him and planned to use Ira as bait. Damon found her collapsed on the floor, shaking, unable to breathe as realization hit her that the real enemy wasn't Damon, but the shadows stalking her life since childhood. Without a moment of hesitation, Damon activated every resource he had. Private security, underground contacts, former assassins turned allies. To locate her grandmother, and for the first time Ira saw the raw truth of who he really was. Not a cruel CEO, but a man who had fought his entire life to destroy the darkness he was born into. The rescue mission turned into a deadly trap, with Damon taking a bullet meant for Ira as he shielded her with his own body, collapsing in her arms as he whispered something that broke her completely. "I've been falling for you since the night I lost you. I thought fate was giving me a second chance, not to own you, but to protect you." As sirens wailed in the distance and Damon's blood stained her hands just as her father's scarf once had, all the hatred, confusion, and fear inside Ira shattered, and she realized the truth she had been running from. She loved him, had loved him long before she understood it. Damon survived, barely, spending weeks unconscious while Ira refused to leave his side, holding his hand and whispering apologies and confessions she wished she had spoken earlier, and when he finally opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was her. The girl he had spent half his life trying to protect, crying and smiling at the same time. In the months that followed, the syndicate responsible for the fire was dismantled completely using evidence Damon had gathered for years. Ira's grandmother recovered thanks to Damon's medical support, and Ira herself rebuilt her life with a strength even she didn't know she possessed. Damon, no longer hiding behind the mask of a ruthless CEO, became a man who learned how to love openly, protect fiercely, and heal the broken pieces of his past. And Ira, once a poor girl who sold herself to save her grandmother, now held the heart of the man who had been falling for her long before she ever stepped into his office. Their love wasn't born from convenience or desperation. It was born from fate, from tragedy, from a miracle that rose from the ashes of a fire meant to destroy them both, and together they rebuilt every shattered piece of their lives, proving that sometimes the coldest hearts burn the brightest when given a reason to love.